Hello everyone and welcome to the first computer build of this channel. Today I'm gonna build a computer that's gonna cost you less than $500 and it's gonna perform the most everyday tasks with much ease, and most modern games are gonna run great. So for this build we're gonna use Masterbox Q300L from CoolerMaster. It's a fairly inexpensive case you can find on Amazon for around 50 bucks. We're going for processing and graphics. We're using the Ryzen 3400G. This is a processor that has integrated graphics, Radeon RX Vega 11 graphics. It's gonna be fairly good for most modern applications, and this one costs around $150. For motherboard, due to the shortage of parts, I chose the B450M from ASRock. It should be pretty much adequate for most modern applications, and we're going with the Corsair Vengeance 2 by 8 gigabytes sticks, so a total of 16 gigs of RAM, running on 3600 megahertz, which is very fast. For power supply, I chose a CV450. If I had the option and I didn't have to wait more than a couple weeks, I would get the 550 or 600 watts power supply for future-proof, in order for it to be more future-proof. But right now I chose a CV450 because it was readily available in the market and it's going to be super adequate for our system. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start assembling that thing. So let's put all those aside. Put this big box aside, and as always, let's start with the motherboard. Fairly adequate stuff. We have a SATA cable, the screw for our M.2 drive, the CD drive. I mean, who uses CDs anymore? I mean, I don't know if you install the CD drive in your computer anymore, or if someone uses CDs. Just you guys let me know if you still use CDs till this day. But I don't think someone would use CD drive. So Mini ITX, fairly small motherboard. This is not bad, it's actually very nice. So we got our M.2 slot here. We got our 2 slots for our RAM. We got our slot for the processor. Let's start with assembling our motherboard. It should be fairly easy and fast. Should not take you that long. Okay, how is Corsair using? Okay, should I cut this? Probably should open it. Okay, here we have our 2 DDR sticks with the heat sinks. So the DDR4 RAM has a different pin layout, connector layout than DDR3 in the previous generations, in order to avoid conflict with previous generation motherboards. So you need to actually try to align the less pins to that side. So in this motherboard, this configuration, the less pins are here. You just wanna, right now the DDR4 slots do not have 2 slots that 2 brackets that you used to get one back and So you just push the rear side of the memory in, and then the front side, and it just clicks. Did it click? No. You will hear the RAM clicking into place, and the bracket on the back of the motherboard will automatically slide into its place. You don't need to push it or do anything else. Make sure you align your DDR properly, and everything else is basically done automatically. Oh, got a little bit rough there, but it's all into place. Okay, great. So we need to mount the CPU. CPU of choice is the 3400G with Radeon Vega 11 graphics. It is a 4-core 8-thread processor, 3.7 GHz base clock, 4.2 boost clock. That means that if the cooling is adequate, your processor should be able to boost that to 4.2 GHz. In this box, they already include a cooler, which is the stock cooler that comes with AMD's processor of this range, and of course the processor. Now, these coolers have some kind of thermal compound already pre-installed, so you don't need to put your own. You want to make sure that this thermal compound is fairly new. So I can see right here, I touched it a little bit and it left residue on my hand. That means the thermal compound is relatively new and fresh. There are some times that you might receive coolers that the thermal compound is gray and sticky. When you have this case happening, that means that the cooler has not been sitting somewhere nice and the thermal compound is bad, and it's gonna perform, but if you put your cooler on the CPU like this, when the thermal compound is sticky, you're risking, when you're moving your your cooler onto the CPU in order to mount it on the screws, you're risking bending some of the pins underneath of the CPU. That happened to me a few days ago, and I had to bend back the pins of the CPU. So with that said, let's put those things aside. It's a nice little box. So we got our processor in here. So installing the CPU is pretty straightforward. You just open the bracket that's on the board, just lift it up on the AM4 socket. Should be the same thing for the LGA sockets. Now, underneath the CPU on the bottom, you will see there is a small arrow, golden, on one of the sides. That arrow should align with the arrow that's on the motherboard. The arrow might be on the motherboard or it might be on the plastic bracket, and I want to show you closer how it should look like. So this is the arrow on the board, so you can see it here. Here's our arrow on this board, so that means that this arrow on this side, on the bottom side here, it's gonna go on that side. So with that said, we're ready to install our processor. The processor should just slide inside the slot. You don't have to move it, you don't have to do anything, it just has to sit and it's not moving anywhere. Just swivel it a little bit around so that the PCB board actually touches the plastic part. After you're sure that it's sit correctly, just close the bracket. That will squeeze the pins together and that will make contact from the CPU to our motherboard. Do I hear something in here? No. Okay, fortunately. Okay, so most of the AM4 motherboards come with two brackets. These are brackets for either water cooler or aftermarket cooler. This cooler here does not need those brackets, so we might as well go ahead and remove those brackets, as it will not, they won't be useful at this time. I forgot to mention, the only tools you need for this job is a Phillips head screwdriver. And of course, you need to be careful and not clumsy. Once you do this once, then it's easy to do it another time. So, with that taken out, if we lift up the board, we see there's a bracket that goes at the back, and that bracket should lock our mechanism into place. So that bracket should stay there once we put the cooler on. So let's see, where is this is the cable for the fan that controls the fan speed and measures the fan speed, and I see that the connector is here on the top. So I will mount it this way because I like it to be mounted this way actually. Carefully try to align the screws with the plate underneath. Okay, so it's now touched, and once you get it aligned with the bracket, start tightening the screws in a cross pattern fashion. This is not tightening. Okay, it found its way. So I'm tightening the screws in a cross pattern, that way the below the thermal compound spreads properly on the CPU die. Now that it's secured, we can go ahead and screw the screws all the way to the maximum. These screws have springs in between, so basically you're screwing the springs, so they exert force, but they do not exert too much force that once you screw it you would damage the CPU or the board. So with our cooler into place, it is now time to route the cable into our CPU fan as indicated on the board. Okay, great. So with that out of the way, we are ready to assemble our case. And actually we're halfway there. So let's put this aside and assemble a case. I've used this box in a lot of recent builds because it's actually very versatile. It's inexpensive, and it allows for much customization. I like building my own personal rigs, giving a personal touch. I don't want pre-assembled with already installed fans. I'm not really a fan of that. I want to put my own stuff inside the computer. So, right? It's a tiny little thing. It's so fun. It's so nice. So I think I got it in the wrong side. This is the bottom side. Wait. Got a small manual that offers warranty. I mean, what kind of warranty can you need for a case like that? And there's already a top filter pre-installed. These filters are magnetic, and the other one for the front is in a plastic film. But we don't care about that. Let's go ahead and open the front of the box. This case already comes with a pre-installed 120 millimeter fan at the back. So it's a pretty cute case. I like it. You might say, Andrew, I can find cases for $20 difference, and they come pre-installed with RGB lighting and nice lights and controls. I mean, yeah, but you don't like get the satisfaction that you get something bare bone and you fix it yourself. So this is our case. Here's our front I/O, headphone jack, microphone jack, power button, USB 3, reset button. Simple as that. A fan at the back, 120 millimeter, just what brand is it? This is a generic brand, and I think this one is RGB. No, it's not RGB. It's just a fan. And these are our cables. So we also want to go ahead and remove another. Oh, this is more information. Let's go ahead and remove the rear cover. Again, these screws are not fancy. You just need a Phillips head and that's it. Remove those screws, take the back panel off. And then you can see at the back there's a lot of space for cable management. There's a space for a 3.5-inch hard drive, which you can easily swap, as you can put on this plate, and you can swap by taking this plate, this screw off, which is fairly nice and cheap. So let's go ahead and get our stuff out. Silica gel, I don't know why they put it in here. And here's our cable ties, zip ties, and screws. So we need our zip ties and we need the hard drive mounts. I need that, give it to me. Okay, so now I'm gonna bring the camera here so that you can see what I'm doing from above. So here's our box, here's our rear fan already cable managed, here's our cables that need to actually be here. And there's some screws for the motherboard, for the micro ADX motherboard, which are actually pre-installed, but we should go ahead and put some more of them. So these are the screws that are going to go inside in your motherboard, in the bottom of the case, and then you can screw your motherboard on them. And actually this kit comes with a special tool that you can convert your Phillips head screwdriver to one of these pentalobe or hexagon screws. So I'm gonna go ahead and put some of them. Better if you put them by hand first, put them in their place, and then go ahead and screw them down properly. So let's place the motherboard inside the box and let's see which other screws need to be put. We have M1, so we need another here, M, and another here on the M, and that's it. So you need to check your motherboard configuration to see where you need to put your bits on the case, so then you can screw your motherboard on the case. I actually like small builds like these because I'm just a minimalist. I like small builds. I assure you that you don't want a big computer taking much of your space at home. So just put your motherboard in here, check if it aligns properly with all the screw holes. I can confirm that it does. So it's time to take it out and put the I/O shield. This is the I/O shield. You need to put this at the back. Make sure it aligns properly with your motherboard. Just push it in and it will click into place. So let's grab our motherboard. Let's put that in. So it perfectly aligns with our I/O shield, and we're now ready to screw it in place. The motherboard has to just sit and rest there, and you will be able to see the screw holes without having to move it around. You need to use these screws. I don't know if you can see them. These are not the long screws, the screws that have the base on the bottom. This little motherboard is so cute. I want one for myself. Okay, it's time to put the chassis fan into its place. I like managing also my cables and making them as short as possible, like ridiculously short, until they won't fit on the motherboard. So this one is in. Let's go ahead and move those out of the way, because here is where our power supply will go. Great. One more screw. And it's complete. So our motherboard is now in place. So right now, with everything installed and into place, it's time to put our power supply in the box. So let's open our power supply, do a little unboxing. Where's my cutter? It's nowhere to be found. That's fine. I'm gonna use a screwdriver bit to tear open plastic. That works as well. This is the CV450. If you're lucky enough, you will find this right now during the coronavirus pandemic for less than $60. I think I bought this for $58, $57. That's a great price. And this is 80 plus bronze rated power supply. This is not white, this is bronze. This is great power supply. So if you can find it for less than 100 bucks, I would suggest to go ahead and get it. And this is one of the boxes that open from the side. Okay. Important information. Okay. You have your US plug, and you have in the box, nicely packed, you have your power supply. So let's put that aside. And of course, I found my cutter right now that I don't need it. This is a non-modular power supply, meaning it outputs a set of cables at the back that are fixed. That means you cannot remove those cables. If you don't need some of them, you just need to tie them up behind your case. That's what non-modular means. Oh, you gotta love that smell of new and fresh. Okay, so take that off. This box has a bracket at the back that extends power supply inside the box, and that needs to be taken out and mounted onto the power supply. Otherwise, you're gonna have a hell of a time. Actually, you're not able to mount the power supply in any other way. So you need to just take these 4 screws from the bottom of the case. Take that bracket out. This is your bracket. And then this bracket, you go to the power supply and mount it directly onto the power supply. That's what we're gonna do right now. Don't forget to ask me any questions you have on the comments down below. I'll try to answer everything. So that screws in. This corner screw seems to be in, and this other one is in. Great. And now our power supply is assembled with our bracket on the bottom. And now we're ready to go inside the box and mount it at the bottom of the case. Should be fairly easy. Should slide like a glove. And it does. I would be surprised if I didn't have to move around the power supply. So the power supply is not sitting on the bottom of this case. It's not actually touching the bottom. And that is because of vibrations and resonating. So imagine having a power supply that's actually metal touching metal, and it was resonating with your metal. It would be fairly annoying. There's a small scratch here. It should be fine. So with these 4 screws in place, your power supply is basically floating. Great. What I like to do is I like to take all the cables and route them behind the case right away before I do anything else. I just like to go ahead, tuck them in. push them all to the back of the case. So we can go ahead after and do our nice cable management. And that is the bad thing about the non-modular power supplies, is that there's a bunch of wires sticking out of your power supply, and you may end up using half of them, which is not that nice always. I want to take the case and the front panel cables off here, put them on the side, and I want to extend all those cables outside. Looks like it. All right, and we are golden. So what I like to do at this point is I like taking a zip tie, put it right over here. Separate the cables from the case. If it wants, it will go through. It doesn't seem to want to. Okay. Never go ahead and tighten the zip ties all the way. Just leave some wiggle room. You will thank me later. So, with all our cables sticking out at the back, it's now time to do some cable management. This is our front panel cables, and I'm gonna go ahead and take them through the box right now, one by one, where it's needed. So this one is for the audio, so this is gonna go to the bottom. And this is for your power and LED. Okay, great. What I like to do in these cases, I like to take my power supply box, put it behind here, and rest my case on it, as there's a bunch of cables on the back. So right now, we're ready to put our cables. This is the cable for your front HD audio. Usually it's on the corner of the board. It's pretty straightforward. You slide it in. You have your USB 3 cable. It's usually on the middle of the case. And we have our power. So our power is routed in these small pins, and most of the modern motherboards have lettering on the pins that say power LED, power plus, minus, reset, and also this cable on the front has all your information you need. So you have reset, HDD LED, which if you have HDD, otherwise SSD is not going to work, power, and power LED. So I'm going to go ahead and, as indicated here, we have power LED on top. So we successfully installed the power LED. The plus and minus for the LED is very important, otherwise you're going to burn the diode. The power button, you don't care how you put it in. Plus, minus, you don't care, it's just a switch. So it just makes a contact. You don't care if it's upside down or the other way, it just makes a contact and then it powers the board. The HDD LED, you do care how you put the plus and minus. So whatever is a diode doesn't like getting in reverse voltage. And also the reset button, same thing. You just connect it. So with our power successfully connected and front I/O, we're ready to go ahead and route the power supply cables. There's a small hole here, so I might take this audio cable and route it behind here so I can hide it. It doesn't obstruct my view. And that turns out great, actually. That turns out perfect. Great. So let's go ahead and route our power supply cables. So we have our CPU power that needs to go to the top. Usually you get 4 pins for the CPU power. In case that you have a Ryzen Threadripper, you have 8. But in this case you only need, actually in this case you have 8, but you need 4. So you need to separate the cable and push it at the top. So you go ahead and route this cable from the back. There's an opening here that's going to allow you to put the cable through and catch it from the other side. So in this case, you hide everything. It doesn't need to be in the front. Okay, connected. Our CPU cable is connected. The 24 pins for our motherboard. I will take it here, twist it around, and plug it in my connector. This is a pretty straightforward procedure. You can't go wrong. This is our PCI Express, which we don't have at this build as we're using the internal graphics, so we're hiding it here. And there's also SATA, which I'm going to route here. and I'm gonna leave them over here for our hard drives. So with our build almost done, it's actually done, but we need to install Windows and see how this thing runs, and also do some decent cable management. So with our build almost complete, there's just one thing to do, is to install our SSD drive. This one you can range from $50 to $150. I got a MICRON 256 gigabytes. This is just a used drive I had lying around. So I'm gonna go ahead and install this in the M.2 slot that comes with these boards. And I'm gonna secure it with a small screw. Dedicated screw for this job. And my screwdriver is not magnetized at the moment, so I was about to say I'm risking to lose that screw, and I did. Okay. So I'm just going to use my tweezers to place the screw into place. Screw it down gently, and just like that you have your M.2 slot hard drive in place. So let's go ahead and do some nice cable management and fire it up. So over here it's obviously a mess. So went ahead and tried a few hard drives that are going to be used for storage. In this case has one mount for 3.8 hard drive, which is at the back, and that's where I'm gonna mount my hard drives. Let's go ahead and mount the first one. And then rest of the hard drives, I should be able to mount them on the front of the case right here. Should I be able to? No, I don't think so. These hard drives are not supposed to be mounted here. This is just for 2.5. So cannot do that. So I'll just mount one here at the back. You just take this plate off and you strap it onto the drive. And it's that easy. Align the drive with the holes, and right now we only need a couple screws. I like that CoolerMaster has put their logo on here. They've taken the time to put their logo on this bracket. And I put it opposite. I'm so mad at myself. So this bracket is going to go to the other side, so that the hard drive is sticking out to the opposite side, so we can properly connect it. There is a conflict with our HD audio cable, but we're gonna go through. And simple as that, we installed our HDD. So I'm gonna go ahead here and cut the zip tie. Use one of these connectors for power. Probably the shorter one. There you go. The rest of it I can shove it under here to save some space, and to have some nice cable management at the back. I don't like having any wires sticking out. I like hiding my mess and my cables. So I'm going to hide this here. That's successfully hidden. And there's two more that are sticking out here that we're going to need it later. So this is one that's going to be in front, and then with the same fashion I can go ahead and hide this cable as well. If I can hide it in here, it will be best. If not, then I'll find somewhere else. Nope. I'll find somewhere else then. Here is a nice spot to hide my cable. right now it's a good time to go ahead and drag any cables that I don't like, put them back into place nicely. So we're gonna make a I'm gonna tie these cables all together. I love zip ties. They can make everything so organized. I hate it when I have to take something apart, but I still love them. Zip ties are in. And we're done with our cable management. Last step is to take a SATA cable from here and route it to our board. It's great. And into our one of our SATA connectors on the motherboard. Awesome. So now it's time to put the back cover inside and run some tests. So we're done. So here's our back cover. I won't be surprised if it's kind of stubborn to close because I've shoved all my cables at the bottom. And this sometimes creates problems. But cable management is cable management and shall be done. Time to put the bottom screws. And we're good to go. This is our front panel filter for the dust. Ah, this smells so nice. And to do the honors, like a glove. So, to reevaluate what we put in this build, I used a 450 watts power supply, mini ITX motherboard, of 256 SSD M.2, two 8GB sticks from Corsair, a 16GB Vengeance kit, and a 3400G AMD processor with RX 11 graphics. It took me around 1 hour to put everything inside, maybe one and a half hours. So this is the total time it takes you, and I took the time to do decent cable management. It could even take less if you just like to leave your cables like that, or how you like. And we basically put a machine together that is future-proof, and in the future you can add a separate graphics card, and this is gonna be much better in games. But for now, let's go ahead and run some applications, run some benchmarks, and see how this $500 build performs. So now for the important part of installing drivers. We'll go ahead and install the Adrenaline 2020, which is the driver for the Radeon graphics. You need to make sure that you download the latest version from their website for the equivalent processor that you have, in this case the 3400G, and just wait for it. There's a couple other things that I'm going to install here. I'm going to get the Msi Afterburner and see if we can squeeze out something of this GPU. And CPU-Z, we're gonna stress the CPU and check the temperatures, and HW monitor, we're gonna check the temperatures with this little tool. And the last tool that we're gonna use to stress and bench the CPU and compare it to other CPUs is the Cinebench. So right now I'm installing the Adrenaline. So we're actually fluctuating from 245 gigahertz. Actually the CPU is lower than the base speed because it doesn't need to do anything fancy right now. Ooh, we have a fancy UI here on the Radeon software. So let's go ahead and install the software. So as this software is getting installed, let's go ahead and check our CPU usage. The CPU itself is ramping up to 4. Oh, we see some spikes here. Okay, it's installing the graphics drivers, and that's why we have the night light on. Let's launch the software. Quick setup. Which profile? It's a gaming and standard, or standard. We can change that later. This version and this program allows you to connect your smartphone. It also finds the games, and there is metrics embedded in the program which show you the CPU usage, RAM usage, temperature, clock speed, and VRAM, which is pretty nice, and with some nice charts here. Okay, so let's exit this program. Our processor speed can go down to 168 gigahertz. Right now its utilization is 1%, so basically the processor is not doing anything, so it conserves power. L3 cache is 4 megabytes, L2 cache is 2 megabytes, and base speed is 370. Let's try see what the GPU reports here. There's 2 gigabytes of dedicated GPU memory, which is really amazing actually, because of the small form factor of the processor. It already has 2 gigabytes of dedicated GPU memory, and it runs DirectX 12. So with that said, let's leave that on the side and let's go ahead and install the Msi Afterburner. So here the GPU clock is at 200 megahertz with a maximum 933. GPU temperature is ranging from 32 to 40 degrees, which is pretty nice, judging that the CPU and the GPU are packed together in one pack. So here you can set the core clock limit. Of course, you cannot set the temperature limit, power limit, and core voltage, and I guess that's a limitation from the CPU itself. Let's go ahead, open CPU, Z and HW monitor, and try to stress test the CPU and see how the original cooler that comes with that CPU performs. So we got 0.88 volts. Let's go here to bench. I'm going to use a reference as a reference. I'm going to use a previous generation processor. Let's say a 4790K, which was top of the line back in 4 years ago. Unlocked processor. Let's stress CPU. Ooh, I can hear the fans ramping up. So here we have 32 Celsius on the motherboard. We got 1.35 volts now going through the processor, and it's sitting at a comfortable 67 degrees. That's pretty nice. That means we still have room for overclocking. 68 right now. Getting an IO cooler could get that down to like 58, and that is pretty amazing. The processor is consuming only 25 watts maximum, and it's on 100% utilization. That's pretty amazing stuff. Here, we're getting decent performance as measured by, we're now going up to 70 degrees. Getting a little hot there. But still, comparing to, let's say, a laptop CPU, it's going to be much more cooler, and you can, of course, go ahead and overclock this puppy and get a little bit more performance out of it. The good thing about those new Ryzen processors is that they're unlocked. You can go ahead and overclock them as long as you don't burn them and they won't shut down. We're now consuming 25 watts on the package, 5 watts per core, and the package is sitting on a 71 degree Celsius. While our motherboard is sitting at a comfortable 33 degrees, and our proximity sensor for the CPU is at 45. The computer is still relatively silent, with this case. It's not very loud. So while I have this running, let's see if we can, I can still like open programs. The CPU is right now sitting at 100%, and I can still do things, and the performance is very, very, very snappy. It's pretty amazing stuff. These processors, this new generation processors, still have so much in there. You can still open the Radeon software. Like, the performance is so snappy. I don't even see, it doesn't even feel like the processor is on 100% utilization. The processor is right now at 73 degrees, and I'm opening programs. I'm even opening Windows, and there's no reduction in performance whatsoever. It doesn't look like it's getting stressed, and that is pretty amazing stuff. Okay, so right now maximum we've reached is 73 Celsius, and I want to see, which I really don't believe so, there's not gonna be any thermal throttling unless we reach like 85 degrees or something. So that's some pretty great results. We're still at 73 Celsius and we're stopped there. Our package voltage is mostly 135 volts, and I guess we can try to undervolt and increase a little bit of the performance. Pretty great stuff. Let's stop the stressing. I can hear the computer slowing down the fans. Pretty nice stuff. Alright, I'm a little bit disappointed I couldn't install the Cinebench R15, but I'm gonna try to install the R20 software, and once I get the results, I'll post it down in the comments or in the video description, so you can have a clue on what the Cinebench results are on this processor. However, this is a mid-range processor, and you should be able to run most of the medium games like League of Legends, CSGO. All of these games, you're gonna run these games in pretty well, and it's gonna keep you in a relatively low budget, while it will give you the opportunity to upgrade to a better graphics card in the future if you don't want to spend like that extra money right now. So with that said, let's go ahead and conclude this video. Alright everyone, thank you for being with me. That concludes this video for today. I hope you learned something from this video, and I hope I helped you build your own PC, or I inspired you build your own computer, or even upgrade your existing one. This is a fairly easy job, and you just need to have some patience, and of course there's YouTube out there. There's always videos like this. There's always tutorials that you can check and you can try. So thank you very much for being here with me. If you like this video, please hit the like button or the subscribe button to my channel. That will help me make more videos like this in the future. As always, I will see you next time.